Chapter 779, Escaping from the Deep Pit. Little black rat was very alert. It was afraid that there would be some powerful demon beast guarding outside. It listened for a while and saw that there was no movement, so it climbed up. After Little Black Rat came out of the hole, it looked around. Other than the rubble and spirit tool remains, there were no other demon beasts. It told Yun Chujio what it saw. Yun Chujio could not help but let out a sigh of relief. If there were powerful demon beasts guarding above, it would be hard for her to survive. Yun Chujio got Little Black Rat to bite along the hole that she had dug until it was the size that she could pass through. Little Black Rat dug down from above, and its speed was much faster. A day later, a hole that Yun Chujio could pass through was dug out. Now, the rope on Little Black Rat's tail became Yun Chujio's safety rope. Little Black Rat used its claws to pull, and its strength was very great, so it was not a problem for it to pull Yun Chujio up. However, Yun Chujio was very cautious. She was afraid that the rope would not be able to bear her weight, so she threw a rope to Little Black Rat along the hole, and this time, she began to climb up. After struggling for a bit, Yun Chujio finally climbed to the top of the hole. She did not dare to stay there for long, and quickly jumped to another place. She put Little Black Rat into the spiritual beast bag and started to look around. This place should still be in the ancient sword tomb, but it was silent. There was probably no one else around. Yun Chujio tried to strike a bolt of lightning on the formation, but it did not even produce any ripples. She temporarily gave up on breaking it. Yun Chujio let Fu Ao and the other three out and said, "It seems that we are trapped inside." "Don't tell me that because I want to take you guys out," Im detained. Fu Ao sighed, "It is possible, but it is also possible that it is revenge from the heavenly lightning you tricked. If you didn't exhaust the spiritual power of the formation, how could those people get out? That's not right. Since I made the heavenly lightning exhaust the spiritual power of the formation, why did the enchantment appear again?" Yun Chujio asked in confusion. "Little girl, have you heard of the chain formation? It's a chain formation, where when one formation fails, another one will be activated immediately." Yun Chujio was stunned. She recalled the deep hole that she had fallen into in the demonic beast forest. When she and Di Biming came out, the deep hole had disappeared. At that time, Di Biming also said that it might be a chain formation. Yun Chujio could not help but feel a little depressed. She could not use the same method twice. Could it be that she was trapped there and would die? Sigh, now I can't get out either. Should you release your men or let them stay in the green jade bottle, oh? Yun Chujio asked Fu Ao and the others. Although there's no heavenly lightning for the time being, the earth fissure can happen at any time. It's safer to stay in your spirit beast bag, Fu Ao thought for a while and said. Yun Chujio nodded. Seeing that Fu Ao and the others could not do anything about it, she simply put the four of them back into the green jade bottle. Yun Chujio first ate and drank a lot. Then, she fixed a few ropes to two large rocks that were very far away. Then, she spread a blanket over the ropes and sat on them. This way, unless there was a large area of collapse, she would be safe for the time being. Even if she fell, she could use the force to jump up. Yun Chujio did not dare to sleep for the past few days. She was afraid that she would fall down. This time, she was finally safe for the time being. She asked Little Black Rat to be on guard and then fell into a deep sleep. Chapter 780, The Kitchen Knife Became a Spirit. Yun Chujio slept soundly. After waking up, she stretched and put away the blanket and rope. Then, she started wandering aimlessly. It was impossible to break the enchantment. Even the remnant souls could not attack it. If they attacked, they would suffer a backlash. It was impossible for Yun Chujio to break the enchantment by herself. Yun Chujio felt that there were only two ways around it at the moment. One was to cultivate hard like the last time in the deep pit of the demonic beast forest. When she broke through to the next level, she would insult the heavens and let it split the array formation. However, she could not guarantee that she would not overdo it, resulting in the heavens killing her. The second method was to find the core of the array. After destroying the core, she could naturally get out. This method was more stable, but it was less maneuverable. The ancient sword tomb was so big, who knew where the dam core was? Yun Chuzhou decided to do both. She would look for the core of the formation while cultivating. Thus, Yun Chuzhou lived a regular life in the ancient sword tomb. She ate, cultivated, looked for the core of the formation, and slept. This cycle repeated over and over again. In the blink of an eye, a month had passed. There was no sign of the core of the formation at all. She was worried that she would fall into a crack at any time during cultivation, so she could not break through. Yun Chuzhou felt that this could not go on. Although she had something that she could not finish, the crack in the ground was getting more and more serious. If this continued, she would have no place to stand on sooner or later. Yun Chuzhou decided to try scolding the heavens. What if that old bastard could not hold it in and struck her? It was better than waiting for death. Hey! Heavens, you old fart! Didn't you want to kill me? If you have the ability, come and strike me. If you don't strike me, you are a coward. Heavens, are you already afraid of me? You don't dare to go against me. Could it be that you've done something harmful, so you're feeling guilty? Yun Chuzhou cursed for a long time, but there was no reaction at all. Yun Chuzhou decided to put in more effort. Hey, heavens, I've helped you write a lot of poems. Listen up, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Heavens is a scoundrel, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Heavens is an old bastard. A garden full of spring can't hold it. Heavens came out of the wall. The sun rises in the east and the rain falls in the west. Heavens is the most shameless. Yun Chuzhou cursed until her mouth was dry, but there was still no reaction. Yun Chuzhou sat on the ground dejectedly. It seemed that this old bastard had learned its lesson and did not take the bait at all. Yun Chuzhou tried to curse at the heavenly lighting for a while, but there was still no reaction. It was like a fist hitting cotton, making one feel so depressed that they wanted to vomit blood. The crack in the ground became more and more serious, and there were a few times when Yun Chuzhou almost fell in. Fortunately, she made preparations every time she took a break, or else she would have been buried in the sea of fire. Yun Chuzhou was so worried that she could not take it anymore. She was so upset that she decided to vent her anger, and how she did it was by yelling and eating. She set up a bonfire, took out a snow rabbit from her storage ring, and took out a large kitchen knife to butcher the snow rabbit. Unexpectedly, just as she took out the large kitchen knife broke out of her control and jumped forward. Yun Chuzhou was stunned. Damn, the kitchen knife had developed a spirit. The large kitchen knife jumped forward for a while. When it saw that Yun Chuzhou did not follow, it stopped. Yun Chuzhou finally came to her senses and quickly chased after the large kitchen knife. When the large kitchen knife saw that Yun Chuzhou was chasing after it, it continued to jump forward quickly. Damn! Large kitchen knife, stop right there. Did you see that I was going to die, so you want to stand on your own? You ungrateful knife! Yun Chuzhou shouted as she chased after it. Chapter 781, told it to throw stones at its own feet. The big kitchen knife continued to leap forward as if it did not hear Yun Chuzhou. Yun Chuzhou did not dare to jump as she was afraid that the ground would crack, so she chased after the big kitchen knife step by step. Yun Chuzhou was also a little annoyed. She thought that it would be nice to run after the big kitchen knife, so she did not use the sticky silk net to catch it. The girl and the knife continued to chase each other. The big kitchen knife kept a certain distance from Yun Chuzhou. Yun Chuzhou felt that the big kitchen knife did not seem to be running, but rather, it seemed to be pointing the way. Yun Chuzhou's eyes lit up. I don't have any good ideas on what to do anyway. I'll try keeping up. She wanted to see where the big kitchen knife would take her. They ran for 5 days and 5 nights, all the way to the end of the ancient sword tomb. Little vegetable knife, where are you going this time? Is it the end? Yun Chujio said with her hands on her waist. The big kitchen knife ignored Yun Chujio and kept cutting a spot on the ground with its blade. Yun Chujio's eyes lit up. Little vegetable knife, are there good things in there? Get out of the way, I'll dig. Yun Chujio took out her pickaxe and started digging. She was wishful in her heart. Perhaps the core of the formation was under there, and if she could dig to the core of the formation, she would be able to get out. Unfortunately, Yun Chujio dug around and only found a book made of the skin of a poison-antlered antelope. Yun Chujio opened it and looked at it. She was so angry that her nose almost went crooked. There was not a single word on it. Was it a wordless heavenly book? Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. She remembered that she had heard that some books needed to be sprinkled with special concoction to make the words appear. She had no choice but to put the book away. Since it was made from the skin of a poison-antlered antelope, it was a useful thing after all. There was no need to waste it. The big kitchen knife quieted down. No matter how Yun Chujio teased it, there was no other reaction. It was as if everything that happened just now was an illusion. Yun Chujio adjusted her state of mind very quickly. No matter how bad her life was, she still had to live a good life. Thus, she lit the bonfire again and started to roast the rabbit meat. The rabbit meat was roasted until it was crackling and oozing oil. The fragrance soon spread. Yun Chujio mumbled while eating the roasted meat, "Sigh, I can't be too cocky. If I hadn't been cocky then, wouldn't I have just rushed out? How can this happen? Sigh. Although I've collected so many remnant souls, it's useless. They can't help me attack the enchantment at all. It's not useless. At least they helped me pick up countless spirits and immortal artifacts." Yun Chujio's words suddenly stopped. Wait, countless spirits and immortal artifacts. She suddenly got an idea. Yun Chujio stopped eating the roasted meat and quickly let Fu Ao and the other 3 out. I have an idea. I'll tell you what it is, and you guys can advise me on it. Fu Ao and the other 3 nodded and gestured for Yun Chujio to speak quickly. I've decided to get all the offensive spirit tools and immortal tools to acknowledge me as their master. I'll command these spirit tools and immortal tools to attack the same place. I don't believe that I can't even create a crack. What do you guys think of my idea? I'll let this ancient sword tomb throw stones at my own feet. Didn't it trap these spirit tools? I want these spirit tools to break this cage with their own hands, Yun Chujio said proudly. Fu Ao and the others were stunned at first, then, Fu Ao said, "Little girl, although your idea is good, first of all, these immortal tools and spirit tools may not recognize you as their master. Second, you must have a strong spiritual sense to command these spirit tools. No matter how strong a person's spiritual sense is, it is impossible to command so many spirit tools at the same time. Last but not least, the most crucial thing is that the attack barrier must be continuously attacked. Is your spiritual power enough to support these spirit tools to continuously attack the barrier?" Chapter 782, Acknowledge Me as Your Master. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes. The first question isn't really a problem. All kinds of methods of coercion and enticement will always make them yield. The second question is also easy to handle. These spirit tools and immortal tools all have their own weapon spirit. I'll just arrange them in order and attack them one after another. As for the third question, isn't it just spiritual power? We can have as much as we want. Alright, since you are confident, let's try. Fu Ao and the other 3 thought that Yun Chujio was definitely bragging. However, they did not have any good ideas at the moment. It would not hurt to let her try. After all, they could cancel the contract at any time. Yun Chuzhou took out the spirit tools and immortal tools from her storage ring, then, she said with a serious face, "I'll give you two choices. The first choice is to take the initiative to recognize me as your master and help me break a crack in the enchantment so that I can get out of here. Don't worry, after I get out of here, I'll break the contract with you. The second choice is to be forced to recognize me as your master. Don't worry, I have countless ways to make you agree to recognize me as your master." The spirits of the immortal artifacts and spirit weapons buzzed for a while and then pretended to be dead together. Obviously, they did not fall for Yun Chujia's trick. "You don't have any ambition at all? Are you willing to stay in this small ancient sword tomb for the rest of your lives? The sword tomb is a tomb. Are you willing to stay in the tomb for the rest of your lives? Moreover, the ground of this ancient sword tomb keeps cracking. You might fall into the sea of fire. Do you want to go back to the furnace and be reforged? If you do, I guess your weapon spirit would just be gone, right?" The weapon spirit of the spirit tools buzzed for a while and seemed to be a little hesitant. However, the immortal tools buzzed a few times, and all of the spirit tools quieted down again. Yun Chuzhou sneered, "It seems that all of you're all hesitating to decide until you're forced to. Don't blame me for being merciless. Anyway, I don't have anything to do here, so I'll use you guys to practice my little Geo Thunderbolts." Yun Chuzhou, this fellow, specialized in picking out pushovers. She found that there was a treasure sword there with the lowest grade, so she faced the treasure sword and fired several purple thunderbolts. Yun Chuzhou was very confident in her heart. Even the rolling pin was afraid of the purple lightning. She did not believe that this little spirit tool would not be afraid. Sure enough, after a few purple lightning strikes, the treasure sword could not hold on anymore. It buzzed and agreed to recognize her as its master. Spirit tools were similar to a human, and they all had the wait-and-see mentality. Seeing that there was a sword leading the way, they all agreed to recognize her as their master too. After all, they would cancel the contract after they went out, so it did not matter if they helped her for the time being. The immortal tools were not so easy to deal with. Their intelligence was higher than the spirit tools, and they all thought highly of themselves. They looked down on Yun Chuzhou very much. Even when Yun Chuzhou struck the immortal sword with lightning for a long time, it still refused to give in. Yun Chuzhou was furious. She took out a big kitchen knife and said angrily, "You little bitch. If you still don't agree to recognize me as your master, I will chop you into pieces with my big kitchen knife." The corners of Fu Ao and the other three's eyes twitched. The big kitchen knife was obviously a mortal weapon. If it was used to chop an immortal weapon, it would not do anything and would be redundant. The immortal sword hummed a few times. It looked very disdainful, as if it had the ability to cut her. Yun Chuzhou gestured twice, but she could not bring herself to do it. It was not that she was reluctant to destroy an immortal weapon, but she felt that if she were to cut it, the edge of the kitchen knife would most likely be damaged. The kitchen knife seemed to have gained intelligence, and it had accompanied her for so long. She could not bear to break it. Chapter 783, the first to be recognized by a spirit tool as its master. Seeing that Yun Chuzhou did not make a move, the immortal sword could not help but start humming arrogantly. The other immortal tools also started humming smugly. The other spirit tools also started to clamor when they saw the situation. It was obvious that they were not going to admit their mistakes. Fu Ao and the other three shook their heads. Did this little girl think that these immortal tools would be easy to subdue? She was too naive. There were 3 issues, but she could not even solve the first one. Yun Chuzhou was about to put away the big kitchen knife and hit these little bastards with the rolling pin, but she did not expect the immortal items and spirit items to suddenly tremble. Yun Chuzhou was stunned. Damn, why are these immortal items and spirit items suddenly acting crazy? However, she would not let go of such a good opportunity. Gritting her teeth, she poured almost a bowl of blood onto the immortal items and spirit items. All of a sudden, all kinds of patterns of the contract appeared and disappeared between Yun Chujia's brows. At first, Yun Chujio was very excited. Gradually, her spiritual sense could not take it anymore and she fainted. Fu Ao and the other three were shocked and quickly surrounded her. It was over. The little girl had brought her own death upon herself. It was also because they had not thought it through. They had forgotten that a contract with a spirit tool also required spiritual sense. With so many immortal and spirit tools, a human's spiritual sense could not take it at all. The process of forming a contract could not be stopped. Although Yun Chujio had fainted, the patterns of the contract continued to pour into Yun Chujia's forehead. Fu Ao and the other three looked at each other. Even though they were very worried, they could not do anything. They could only watch from the side. This little girl was probably the first person to be recognized as a master by a spirit tool since the creation of the world. After almost an hour, the last contract pattern was hidden between Yun Chujia's eyebrows. Fu Ao and the other three quickly went forward. Seeing that Yun Chujia's chest was still rising and falling, the four of them let out a sigh of relief. It seemed that she was still alive. However, they did not know if she could wake up. Yun Chujia's sea of consciousness was now as chaotic as a wet market, with various weapon spirits and sounds. It was maddeningly noisy. Among the spirits of all shapes and sizes, there was a small purple ball. Although it had vaguely taken the shape of a human, it had not cultivated into its mature form and was not as intimidating as the other weapon spirits. There were more than 10 spirits who were not happy. Seeing that their master's soul was so weak, they wanted to take revenge on her. More than 10 spirits surrounded Yun Chujia's primordial spirit, the purple ball, in the middle and used its claws to kick Yun Chujio like a ball. The small ball was kicked back and forth by the spirits. Although it wanted to resist, it did not have any limbs. It could not escape or use its spiritual power. Upon seeing this, Furry wanted to interfere and save Yun Chujio. Unfortunately, there were too many weapon spirits and it could not get close to Yun Chujia's primordial spirit. Fu Ao and the other three saw that Yun Chujia's forehead was starting to break out in cold sweat and the expression on her face showed extreme pain. The four of them sighed repeatedly. This was definitely the doing of the weapon spirit, but they could not do anything. Just when the four of them were at a loss of what to do, they saw a small silver dragon fly out from the rolling pin and hide between Yun Chujia's brows. The four of them were stunned. They did not expect that this ordinary-looking rolling pin was actually an immortal item. This little girl was really good at putting on a facade. After the small silver dragon flew into her sea of consciousness, it saw that Yun Chujia's primordial spirit was being bullied. It immediately became angry and fiercely pounced toward a snake-like spirit. Although that snake-shaped spirit was also an immortal item spirit, its grade was not as high as the silver dragon. It was bitten by the silver dragon until it cried out. Although the silver dragon was fierce, the other immortal item spirits also surrounded it. The silver dragon immediately lost its ability to resist and was quickly bitten until it was covered in wounds. Chapter 784, The Evolution of a Weirdo. When the purple ball saw the silver dragon being bullied, it trembled and struggled non-stop. When the spirits saw that, they could not help but laugh sharply. "You little weakling, you still want us to acknowledge you as our master? Tui. Well, play with you until you die." The purple ball rolled toward the weapon spirits, wanting to save the silver dragon and the ball of yarn. The spirits that saw Yun Chujia's primordial spirit even dared to go over, they laughed arrogantly. Although they could not kill their master, they could tease it. They kicked the small purple ball around and continued to bite the little silver dragon and the ball of wool in front of it. The little black bird and the others wanted to help but could not. The spiritual sense of the demon beasts was different from the spiritual sense of the weapons. Their primordial spirits were in their own bodies, it was just that they were connected to Yun Chujio through a spiritual sense. The purple ball was filled with anger and dissatisfaction. This was her sea of consciousness. Why were these little bastards showing off in her territory? She wanted to become stronger. She wanted to become stronger. Just as Fu Ao and the other three were anxiously surrounding Yun Chujio, they saw Yun Chujio suddenly sit up. Her eyes were filled with purple lightning. Fu Ao and the other three were almost scared to the ground. Oh my God, what happened to this little girl? Did she turn into a corpse? Ah, no. She was not dead yet. However, how could a normal person have lightning in their eyes? And it was purple lightning? Yun Chujio sat down cross-legged and began to cultivate. Fu Ao and the other three were dumbfounded. What was going on? Was she not dead just a moment ago? Why did she start to cultivate now? Fu Ao was a little more careful. He thought for a moment and came to a sudden realization. This little girl probably wants to break through forcefully and strengthen her primordial spirit to intimidate those weapon spirits. Zhu Hao shouted at the top of his voice, "What? Isn't this nonsense? How could there be so much thunder spirit energy in this sword tomb for her to break through? Moreover, even if she can, there's no guarantee that her primordial spirit can advance to human form. Some 5th-level spirit emperors can't even get their primordial spirit transformed into human form, let alone this little girl who is only at the 5th level of the spirit cultivator realm. Even if she tries her best to advance, where can she advance to? 5th-level spirit cultivator realm? Zhu Hao, do you have a brain? How can this little girl possibly be at that level? She's at least at the 1st level of the spirit emperor realm, LVG said with a pout. Even if she's at the 1st level of the spirit emperor realm, how can she suddenly advance to the 5th level? Moreover, even if she can really advance to the 5th level, there's no guarantee that her primordial spirit can transform into a human form, Zhu Hao argued unwillingly. It's hard to say. Hasn't this little girl surprised us enough? Maybe she can cultivate her primordial spirit into a human form before reaching the 5th level of the spirit emperor realm. Ji Lu thought for a moment and said. The other three people felt that it made sense. This little girl was indeed different from ordinary people. Did ordinary people have the courage to negotiate with remnant souls like them? Could ordinary people use a stratagem to exhaust their spiritual power? Could ordinary people have purple lightning in their eyes? In that case, let's wait and see. Let's be vigilant and prevent cracks from appearing on the ground. Well, be ready to take the little girl away at any time, Fu Ao said to the other three. Zhu Hao and the other two nodded and began to help Yun Chujio to protect her in case the ground suddenly cracked. 15 minutes, an hour, and 2 hours later, small purple lightning crackled around Yun Chujio's body and surrounded her. Fu Ao and the others were all dumbfounded. Damn, this heavenly thunder root spirit was indeed different from the others. They had lived for tens of thousands of years and had never seen such a strange advancement seen. However, did the advancement succeed or not? Did her primordial spirit really turn into a human form as she wished? Chapter 785, Are you being modest or arrogant? In Yun Chujio's sea of consciousness, a small purple ball suddenly shone brightly. The weapon spirits who were playing with it were immediately startled and quickly moved away, looking at it with a dumbfounded expression. Their eyes were filled with shock. The purple light gradually dissipated, and a miniature Yun Chujio appeared in front of them. Without saying a word, the small person fired several purple lightning bolts at them. Although there were many of these weapon spirits, they could not kill their master, so they could only dodge. How could the little person let them go so easily? She struck them with a series of slashes. Fuck. You actually kicked me like a ball. You've really rebelled. I'll kill you. Although Furry and the little silver dragon were bitten all over their bodies, with Yun Chujio's successful breakthrough, the wounds on their bodies healed easily. Now, they had a backer, they attacked those spirits. Fuck. Who told you to bully me? I will kill you with a slap. In less than 15 minutes, the spirit who had been arrogant just now all became obedient and begged the little human while trembling. The little human smiled coldly. Since you've all acknowledged me as your master, then all of you better behave yourselves. Otherwise, I wouldn't hesitate killing all of you. Anyway, there are so many of you, it doesn't matter even if 10 of you die. The weapon spirits were very obedient now, and they all swore to show their loyalty. Yun Chuzhou sneered in her heart. Once she got out of this ancient sword tomb, she would immediately cancel the contract. These weapon spirits did not want to submit to her at all. If they stayed in her sea of consciousness, a disaster was bound to break loose. Seeing that these weapon spirits had become obedient for the time being, Yun Chuzhou opened her eyes and stood up. "Little girl, are you all right?" Zhu Hao asked with concern. Yun Chuzhou nodded. "I've scared them for now. I've just broken through, so I need to stabilize my realm. Then he'll attack the barrier and think of a way to get out." Zhu Hao scratched his head. "Little girl, your primordial spirit has really turned into a human form. What level of spiritual power are you at now?" Yun Chuzhou nodded again. "If my primordial spirit doesn't turn into a human form, I won't be able to intimidate those bastards at all. I was afraid that my realm would be unstable, so I only rose by 2 levels. I'm now at the 3rd level of the Spirit Emperor realm." Fu Weio and the others were dumbfounded. "Fuck. Are you being modest or showing off? What do you mean you only raised 2 levels? In this ancient sword tomb, thunder spiritual power is very scarce. You rose by 2 levels all of a sudden. Are you still not satisfied?" However, the 4 of them thought about it and were puzzled. The little girl was at the 3rd level of the spiritual emperor realm, so why did her primordial spirit transform into a human form? This did not make sense. However, the things that happened to this little girl were all unimaginable. It was about time for one more thing. In the next few days, Yun Chuzhou stabilized her realm and refined the power of thunder and lightning in her dantian to store the spiritual energy to attack the barrier. Although the weapon spirits in Yun Chuzhia's sea of consciousness were still reluctant, they did not dare to cause trouble since they were under the supervision of the little silver dragon and furry. On this day, Yun Chuzhou felt that the time was right, so she started to group the weapon spirits and told them to attack according to the order. Whoever made a mistake would be killed immediately. The weapon spirits were afraid that Yun Chuzhou would bring up the past, so they were all very obedient. Yun Chuzhou then chose an enchantment. She took out all the immortal weapons and spirit weapons, waved her small claws and said, "Group 1, go." As Yun Chuzhia's voice rang out, more than 100 dazzling spirit weapons, including swords, spears, halberds, axes, hooks, and forks, rushed toward the barrier. Chapter 786, finally got out. The first group attacked for about half an hour. Yun Chuzhou waved her small hands and said, "First group, retreat. Second group, attack." This cycle repeated several times. The dazzling light produced by both groups of immortal and spirit tools was so dazzling that it was almost impossible to open one's eyes. Fu Ao and the other 3 twitched as they watched. Oh my God! To be able to command more than 100 spirit tools at the same time, not to mention the spiritual sense, just the spiritual power required was enough to scare people. If it were an ordinary person, just a single wave of attacks would have exhausted their spiritual power. Yun Chuzhou commanded the spirit tools to attack a specific area. The smaller the area of focus, the easier it would be to damage the targeted area. When an area of the enchantment was attacked, the array formation would not be repaired immediately. There would be a short interval of time before it began to self-repair. Therefore, if one wanted to break the enchantment, one had to carry out continuous attacks so that the one damaged the formation array faster than the speed at which it would repair itself. Only then would there be a possibility of cracks appearing. Yun Chuzhou was pleasantly surprised to find that the power of the array formation this time was not as great as the first one. After a few rounds of attacks, the barrier began to tremble. Yun Chuzhou became more confident and commanded the spiritual tools to continuously attack. In the beginning, Yun Chuzhou was still at ease. After all, these spiritual tools all had their own spirits. Yun Chuzhou did not need to expend any spiritual sense to order the tools to attack a single area. She just needed to direct where the attacks should be. However, these spirit tools required a large amount of spiritual power when they attacked the array. Although Yun Chuzhou had stored a lot of spiritual power, it was still difficult for her to keep things up at the rate the spiritual power was being expended. Seeing that the barrier was trembling more and more violently, Yun Chuzhou could not afford to falter. She gritted her teeth and held on. In the end, Yun Chuzhou simply sat cross-legged and continued to refine the power of lightning from the strange grass. Even so, it was still not enough to satisfy the rate at which her spiritual power was consumed. Yun Chuzhou started to feel reluctant despite being close to breaking the barrier. Although the strange grass could provide a continuous supply of power of lightning, she could not keep up with the refining speed, so she started to have doubts. She only needed to hold on for another hour, and the enchantment would crack. Could she give up just like that? She was unwilling to. If she were to start all over again, she would not be able to do as well that time. Just when Yun Chuzhou felt extremely vexed, Fu Ao and the other three said to Yun Chuzhou, "Little girl, release the remnant souls. Although things might not go well for us when we attack the barrier, it shouldn't be a big problem if we only attack it for a short while. We can still bear it. At most, we can spend more time resting to recover." Yun Chuzhou was overjoyed. She didn't have time for any pleasantries now. She quickly released the remnant souls and let them join the attack while Yun Chuzhou started to quickly refine the power of lightning from the strange grass. She was prepared to give the barrier a fatal blow at the last moment. An hour later, a small crack had begun to appear in the barrier. Although it was not enough to let Yun Chuzhou out, it was already 90% successful. As long as she gave it her all, she would definitely be able to get out. Yun Chuzhou began to command the spirit tools to attack. She put the remnant souls into the spirit beast bag so that they would be unable to get out when they escaped the barrier. When the barrier trembled more and more violently, Yun Chuzhou commanded two groups of spirit tools to attack simultaneously. Finally, the crack was large enough to accommodate one person. "Follow me and charge out together." Yun Chuzhou and the spirit tools rushed out of the barrier immediately. Yun Chuzhou was extremely excited and relieved. Fuck, she had finally got out of the barrier. However, her relief turned to shock when she saw the scene in front of her. Chapter 787, The Sea Full of Water. Yun Chuzhou thought that she would end up in the same place where she had entered the ancient sword tomb, but who could tell her why there was water outside? And it was salty. Could it be that she was in the middle of the ocean? Yun Chuzhou took out the water-repellent bead that the merman had given her. After activating it, she found that she could breathe as if she was on land. Damn, this thing is magical. After Yun Chuzhou recovered from her shock, she turned around and looked at the ancient sword tomb. There was no trace of it at all. She guessed that another set of array formation had been activated around it. This ancient array formation master was skilled. Whoever it was that did this was amazing. Yun Chuzhou put the spiritual items that were scattered in the water into her storage ring and floated to the surface of the water. She had experienced much hardship recently and grew cautious. She wanted to activate a concealment talisman, but she found that there was no reaction. The talisman could not be used in the water. Yun Chuzhou had a bad feeling. The talisman could normally be used even in water. Since it could not be used here, it probably meant this was no ordinary sea. Damn it, could she have escaped the frying pan only to end up in the fire? Yun Chuzhou did not dare to float all the way to the surface. She took out a few things from her storage ring and fiddled with them to make a simple periscope. When she was about to reach the surface of the water, she stretched out the periscope and peeked into it while underwater to observe what was above her. At first, Yun Chujio only saw a stretch of seawater. After she changed directions, she saw a small island not far away. When she saw that there was nothing unusual, Yun Chujio put away the periscope and floated to the surface of the water. Yun Chujio across the vast sea. Her first reaction was to try to let the chopping board fly and take her away from here. Unsurprisingly, her flying tools did not work here. Yun Chujio sighed and could only swim towards the small island. Although she had water-repellent beads, she was still more confident on land. Just as she was about to reach the small island, Yun Chujio suddenly dived into the water and paddled away with all her might, as if a wolf were chasing her. This fellow was about to cry. Fuck, that wasn't a small island. It was a huge sea beast with a mouth that was 30 feet wide. It scared her to death. Yun Chujio swam dozens of miles in one breath. When she saw that the sea beast did not chase after her, she heaved a sigh of relief. That was close. That was close. The sea beast probably felt that I was not worth it and was too lazy to go after such a small meal. If it came after me, I would most likely be finished. Yun Chujio's heart relaxed. Only then did she have the mood to observe the situation at the bottom of the sea. Apart from some fine sand, there was nothing on the seabed. It was barren and dead silent. Not to mention fish and shrimp, there wasn't even any seaweed. Yun Chujio swam for a while more. She gritted her teeth and decided to float to the surface to check out the situation. When she took out the periscope to observe, she almost cried. The huge sea beast was still lying there lazily. Yun Chujio had a bad premonition in her heart. Damn it, she was playing with ghosts. After swimming for half a day, was she still running around in circles? Yun Chujio dived into the sea again and made a mark on the seabed. Then, she swam forward. As expected, after swimming for nearly 2 hours, she ended up at her original spot. Yun Chujio was very sure that there was a formation at work here. Even if she swam until her eyes rolled back, she would not be able to swim out. Yun Chujio originally wanted to discuss the situation with Zhu Hao and the others, but those remnant souls had fallen into hibernation due to the backlash of attacking the barrier earlier. Fuck. I can only rely on myself. This isn't the way. I'll go up and meet that big fellow. Yun Chujio gritted her teeth and floated towards the surface of the water. Chapter 788, My neighbor is a giant turtle. Yun Chujio emerged from the water and swam about 2 miles away from the huge sea beast. She waved her hands with a smile and said, "Hello, Lord Sea Beast." Yun Chujio thought to herself that no matter if it flew in the sky or swam in the sea, nothing was immune to a little flattery. She would try to butter up the beast first. The huge sea beast squinted its huge eyes and glanced at Yun Chujio casually. Its gaze was like a person looking at an ant. When Yun Chujio saw that the sea beast ignored her, not only was she not unhappy, she was even ecstatic. The sea beast did not like her. Since that was the case, it definitely would not eat her, so it meant she was safe. Yun Chujio used her courage to swim to the other side of the sea beast and finally saw its full appearance. It was a level 13 giant tsunami turtle. Yun Chujio counted with her fingers. This tsunami turtle was at least at the 7th level of the spiritual emperor realm. The one in front of her was probably at the 8th level of the spiritual emperor realm. Oh my god, it was lucky that it was not interested in her, otherwise, she would not have any way to survive. Seeing the tsunami turtle close its eyes again, Yun Chujio did not dare to tease it anymore. She swam in another direction, hoping to find another way out. Unfortunately, she swam so fast that her hands and feet were about to cramp. She could see the huge body of the tsunami turtle. Damn it! If I knew this would happen, I would have stayed in the ancient sword tomb. No matter what, we were still on land in there. After soaking in the water all day long, it won't take long for me to turn into a steamed bun. Yun Chujio asked Furry to get some thick wood from the great void mystic realm. She tied a few pieces of wood together and climbed up. Finally, they were temporarily out of the water. The tsunami turtle occasionally opened its eyes and looked at Yun Chujio with disdain. This little weakling was quite a troublemaker. Unfortunately, no matter how much she struggled, she would not get out. If she could, would this turtle still be trapped here too? Yun Chujio finally a place to stand and got her thoughts were back in order. She thought of a crucial question. If this place was a formation, then what did this sea turtle usually eat? There was nothing at the bottom of the sea. Could it be that it just stayed hungry? In the blink of an eye, 5 days had passed. Yun Chujio was surprised to find that the sea turtle did not move at all, let alone eat. It only occasionally glanced at her lazily. After a few days of hesitation, she decided to go and have some fun. Hi, Master Turtle, since we are now considered neighbors. Let's have a chat. Yun Chujio paddled the simple wooden raft to a place not far from the sea turtle and waved her hands. The sea turtle narrowed its eyes and glanced at Yun Chujio lazily, looking as if it did not care. Master Godly Turtle, this is the first time I've seen such a huge sea beast like you. It's awe-inspiring. Master Godly Turtle, you are the kindest and noblest demon beast I've ever seen. Unlike some demon beasts who disregard their own status and always bully the weak, a demon beast like you is a role model in the demon beast world. Master Godly Turtle, I'm impressed by your willpower. For 10 days in a row, you didn't move at all. Even a godly beast couldn't achieve such willpower. You're amazing. The eyes of the tsunami turtle were still half closed at the beginning. As it listened, its eyes gradually grew wide open. It was very pleased with Yun Chujio's words. Chapter 789, This Big Bastard is Too Gluttonous. Yun Chujio was delighted. She could see that her flattery was having some effect, so she decided to take it slow and take her time, or she would not be able to get any useful information from the giant tsunami turtle. Yun Chujio said something flattering to the turtle again. Then, as if nothing had happened, she rowed the wooden raft back to where she first built it. From that day onwards, Yun Chujio went to look for the giant tsunami turtle every day to chat with it. Of course, Yun Chujio was the only one who spoke. When the giant tsunami turtle heard that it was interested in a topic, its eyes would widen. If it wasn't, it would squint its eyes and let Yun Chujio show off. Yun Chujio felt that she had to prepare for a long battle. Therefore, other than getting familiar with the giant tsunami turtle every day, she worked hard to cultivate. When the giant tsunami turtle saw that Yun Chujio was still in the mood to cultivate, it was a little surprised. This little human girl was tenacious. I would like to see if you can still persevere after a few years of being stuck here. In the blink of an eye, another 5 days had passed. Yun Chujio realized that the giant tsunami turtle had really not eaten at all in that time. Yun Chujio suddenly remembered that she had once read in a jade slip that a giant tsunami turtle was very resistant to hunger, some would even be fine if they did not eat for more than 100 years. Yun Chujio decided to make a move. That morning, Yun Chujio paddled the wooden raft to the giant tsunami turtle as usual. Hi, Master Godly Turtle. I have some corpses of demonic beasts on land here. I wonder if you are hungry. If you want to eat them, blink your eyes. I'll give some of them to you. I can't finish eating them alone anyway. Yun Chujio said with a smile. The giant tsunami turtle was stunned. Was this human girl stupid? It was very likely that she would be trapped here for a long time. No matter how much food she had, it was not enough. Why would she still want to give her food away? It did not eat her because it wanted to relieve its boredom. Since she had taken the initiative to give it food, it would be a waste if it did not accept. Therefore, the giant tsunami turtle blinked its eyes. Yun Chujio took out a large piece of wood and placed the carcass of a wind-blade ox on the wood. Then, she pushed the wood toward the giant tsunami turtle. Although the wind-blade ox was not small, it was still small compared to the giant tsunami turtle. The giant tsunami turtle ate the entire carcass in just a few bites. Yun Chujio did not say anything as she swam closer with all her courage and threw another wind-blade ox carcass at the giant tsunami turtle. The giant tsunami turtle had not eaten all the while and had forgotten the feeling of hunger as a result. However, once it started eating, it felt very hungry and gulped up the second wind-blade ox. Yun Chujio threw another wind-blade ox carcass over. The giant tsunami turtle gobbled it up again. After the giant tsunami turtle ate 50 wind-edge ox corpses, it burped to show that it was full. Yun Chujio thought to herself, "Oh my god, it ate so much. No wonder it is so resistant to hunger." It turns out that it ate several meals worth. Fortunately, she had the Great Void Mystic Realm. Otherwise, she would not be able to feed this bastard. "Master Godly Turtle, I still have quite a number of demon beast corpses here. As long as you want to eat something, I will send them to you every day. I don't have any other traits, but I am generous," Yun Chujio said with a smile. The giant tsunami turtle was in a good mood after eating and drinking its fill. It raised its huge head and nodded, which was a rare response to Yun Chujio. Therefore, from that day on, besides chatting and brushing her face every day, Yun Chujio would feed the giant tsunami turtle a big meal every now and then. The giant tsunami turtle, which turned a blind eye to Yun Chujio at the beginning, became a little more enthusiastic. From then, it would occasionally nod at her and blink its eyes. Chapter 790, True Intentions. Yun Chujio felt that she had almost finished buttering up the giant tsunami turtle, so she decided to reveal her true intentions. "Master Godly Turtle, are you trapped here too?" The giant tsunami turtle nodded its huge head. Being trapped there was an obvious fact, and there was nothing to hide. "Master Godly Turtle, your rank is so high. You must have tried your best to escape, but failed?" Yun Chujio asked tentatively. The giant tsunami turtle rolled its eyes. Obviously, it felt that Yun Chujio's question was unnecessary. It was not stupid, of course it tried to escape. The point was that it could not. "Then how did you get trapped here? Were you captured? Or did you enter by mistake? If it's the first reason, blink once. If it's the second, blink twice." Yun Chujio's biggest advantage was that she was thick-skinned. If it gets annoyed, so be it. "It'll keep asking what I should be asking." The giant tsunami turtle blinked twice. Yun Chujio thought to herself, so this bastard also ended up here by accident. This is strange. This area was barren. Why is there an array formation here? Who would casually set up an array formation encircling a sea? Wasn't that crazy? "Master Godly Turtle, how long have you been trapped here?" "A year." The giant tsunami turtle did not respond. "5 years." The giant tsunami turtle still did not respond. 10 years. The giant tsunami turtle nodded its huge head. Yun Chujio couldn't help but feel discouraged. This giant tsunami turtle was a level 13 demon beast. If she couldn't find a way out after 10 years, how could she? However, she soon became full of fighting spirit. Damn it, she managed to escape from the ancient sword tomb. She did not believe that this small pond would be able to trap her. There is always a solution to any problem. She would definitely find a way out. Yun Chujio blinked her eyes and said with a smile, "Master Godly Turtle, I have 2 presumptuous requests. I hope that you will not be angry if I ask them of you." The giant turtle glanced at her with contempt and impatience. Yun Chujio translated it herself. "Damn it, you old bastard. You ate my food and acting haughty with me. Just you wait. Although I can't beat you, I can still teach you a lesson. Master Turtle." I believe that you don't want to be trapped here forever, right? You entered this place by mistake, which means that this place is either somewhere in the sea or you triggered a teleportation array and got brought here unwillingly. I've been observing for the past few days. The water here is constantly flowing and not stagnant, which means that it has to be connected to a source of water. It's very likely that this place is still in the sea where you used to live. Hearing Yun Chujia's words, the eyes of the giant tsunami turtle couldn't help but widen. This little girl is quite smart. She's right. I also suspected that this place is still in the sea where I used to live. It's just that after all these years, no matter what I try, I can't get out. I've been wandering around and always end up being in the same place. I can't even find the edge of the boundary. Master Godly Turtle, I have an idea, but I'll need your cooperation. Firstly, please recall if there were any abnormalities when you first entered this place by mistake. For example, was there a full moon? Or was there a tidal wave? Or was there something else that seemed strange? Second, I'm too short, and it's forbidden to fly here so I can't even see very far. Can you let me climb on your back and let me observe the entire area? Yun Chujio said with a smile. Chapter 791, Yun Chujia's generous heart. The huge eyes of the giant tsunami turtle rolled around and it stared at Yun Chujio for a while. Seeing her calm expression, it relented and finally nodded its huge head. Yun Chujio looked calm on the surface, but in her heart, she was extremely smug. Little fellow, so what if you are a level 13 demon beast? You aren't willing to be stepped on. Humph. Not only do I want to step on you, but also jump on your back. She followed the neck of the giant tsunami turtle and jumped onto the huge turtle's back. As far as the eye could see, the sea and sky were the same color. It seemed to be no different from an ordinary sea. Yun Chujio looked around for a long time and did not find any useful clues. However, she realized that the back of this big bastard was much better than the simple wooden raft she made. It was spacious and flat. The most important thing was that it was far away from the surface of the sea. There was no moisture and she could still bask in the sun. She was bold. She simply laid down on it and took a sweet nap. The giant tsunami turtle didn't see Yun Chujio come down for some time. However, the turtle-type demon beasts were slow-witted, so it did not urge her to hurry. After a while, it also closed his eyes and fell asleep. Yun Chujio had a good sleep. When she opened her eyes, it was already evening. The sun was setting, and under the setting sun, the seawater was dyed with a beautiful red color. It was a beautiful scene that she had never seen before. Yun Chujio held her chin, her eyes were turning red. Such a beautiful scene, it would be great if I could see it together with the gigolo. I haven't seen the gigolo for more than 2 months. I don't know where he was sent to, and I don't know if he misses me. Yun Chujio's eyes suddenly lit up. Although I can't see the gigolo, I can draw it and show it to him when I see him. Therefore, she took out a self-made drawing board from her storage ring and drew the beautiful scene in front of her one stroke at a time. Little Black Bird was speechless. At this time, my master still had the mood to draw. She is too carefree. An hour later, Yun Chujio stopped drawing and looked at her handiwork with satisfaction. TSK, life is unfair to others. Not only am I beautiful, but am also so good at painting. I'm almost falling in love with myself. Little Black Bird was speechless. There was no one else who was this narcissistic. Yun Chujio felt that the drawing was a little awkward. What was wrong with it? Yun Chujio looked at the beautiful scenery in front of her and then looked at her own painting. That's right, it was exactly the same. Why did she feel that it was a little weird? The sky to the west was the setting sun, and to the east was me and the big bastard. There was nothing wrong with it. Yun Chujio suddenly stood up. I know what's wrong. As the saying goes, the spring water of a river flows to the east. The seawater should flow to the east, but the direction of the waves was towards the west. What did this mean? Calm down, calm down. I'm about to find the crux of the problem. Yun Chujio forced herself to calm down, but she was like a person who was about to die of thirst. How could she calm down when she almost saw a way out? She was so excited that she trembled slightly. Just when Yun Chujio was so excited that she could not control herself, the giant tsunami turtle noticed that Yun Chujio was jumping on its back. In a fit of anger, it dived into the bottom of the sea. Plop! Yun Chujio fell into the water. The turtle thought Yun Chujio was mocking it, but it was good that she fell into the water. It helped her calm down and steady her thoughts. The giant tsunami turtle floated up from the sea and stared at Yun Chujio fiercely with its huge eyes. Yun Chujio giggled. Master Godly Turtle, don't be angry. I seem to have found some clues. Let me slowly organize my thoughts. I will tell you when I have figured it out. Chapter 792, Pluck a feather and give it to me. When the giant tsunami turtle heard that Yun Chujio had found a clue, its eyes showed surprise. It was afraid that it would disturb Yun Chujio's thoughts, so it obediently floated on the surface of the water and did not move. Yun Chujio returned to her wooden raft and sorted out some of the thoughts that she had just thought of. Then, she recalled some of the principles that she had seen in her previous life. The essence of biological movement was circular movement. If there was no target, the instinctive movement of any living creature would be circular. But why could living creatures keep moving in a straight line? For example, why did humans walk in a straight line? Because we use our eyes to constantly correct the direction in which we moved. Our brain made corrections in our positioning so we walk in a straight line. If you encounter a situation where you find yourself not knowing where to go, you must have lost your sense of direction at that time. In other words, you are lost. The corrective function of your eyes and brain no longer worked, or the correction signal given to you was fake and chaotic. You feel that you are walking in a straight line, but in fact, you are walking according to your instincts. When in such a situation, one tends to walk in a circle. Yun Chujio slapped her thigh. She had always used the sun as a reference. The sun that she saw must be different from what she normally saw, so no matter how she swam, she would always turn around in a certain area. In that case, if she wanted to find the boundary of the enchantment, she had to find a new reference point. However, there were no other points of reference on the surface of the sea other than the sun in the sky. What should she do? Yun Chujio frowned. She thought for a long time but still could not think of anything. She took out the painting she had drawn previously. Her eyes lit up when she looked at it. Little black bird. Give me one of your feathers. The little black bird was in the spirit beast pouch and was complaining to little black rat and the flaming three-tailed fox king about Yun Chujio. She was talking about her narcissism, black-heartedness, and smugness. Who would have thought that disaster would befall him? What? Master, why do you want my feathers? Every one of my feathers are treasures, I won't give any to you. Little Black Bird immediately exploded when she heard that she was going to pluck the feathers. Cut the crap. If you don't do it, I will pluck it myself. By then, it won't be just one feather. Yun Chujio said fiercely. Little Black Bird could not risk losing more than a few, so it could only bite the bullet and pluck a single feather for Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio put the feather on the surface of the sea and let it float forward slowly. Master. You did it on purpose, didn't you? You plucked my feather and threw it into the sea. No one else bullies birds like you. Little Black Bird shouted angrily. Stupid bird. Shut up. I want to use your feather to find the barrier of this formation and then think of a way to break out of it. Your feathers are very light. It can follow the current of the water to the place where the barrier is. Moreover, it is black, making it easy to spot if it stops there. That place must be at the edge of the barrier. Little Black Bird did not understand at first. After Yun Chuzhou explained it again, it finally understood what Yun Chuzhou meant. Then, it cried out, "Master! You did it on purpose. There are all kinds of stupid birds in the great void mystic realm, why did you have to pluck mine?" Yun Chuzhou coughed dryly, cough cough. "Little black bird, how can other birds compare to you? Master bird, I only trust you." In reality, she felt very guilty. She was so excited at the time that she did not even think about the great void mystic realm. Hearing Yun Chuzhiou's words, the little black bird finally felt a little better. That's right, how could those stupid birds compare to him? Chapter 793, The Old Witch did a good deed inside the formation. There was almost no wind, and the flow of water was very slow. Therefore, the black feather of little black bird fluttered very slowly. Yun Chuzhou was not in a hurry. She had waited for so many days, so it was nothing to wait for another half a day. The black feather drifted further and further away, and Yun Chuzhou gradually lost sight of it. Only then did she realize that she had neglected an important matter. Although the feather of little black bird was light, it was too small. It was fine if it was close, but once it drifted far away, it would be completely invisible. Yun Chuzhou had no choice but to have Furry retrieve a tail feather of a giant winged bird from the great void mystic realm. The feathers of the giant winged bird were bright red, and they were more than 3 meters long. That way, she was not afraid of losing sight of it. Seeing this, the little black bird was so angry that it was twitched. "Master! Don't you think twice before plucking my feathers? Do you know how precious each feather is to me?" Yun Chuzhou felt a little guilty and laughed dryly. "Little black bird, the old needs to make way for the new too. My hair has been completely removed so many times. Yet look at it now, it still grew back fine, didn't it? How can it be the same? That's just hair on your head, but this is the hair on my body. Master, you have to comfort my injured heart. Otherwise, I will throw myself into the sea and commit suicide." Little black bird glared at Yun Chuzhou. Yun Chuzhou knew that she was guilty, so she took out a roasted snow rabbit from her storage ring and put it into the spiritual beast bag. "Little black bird, this can make up for your little heart, right?" Little black bird snorted arrogantly. "Give me another one. I can't just eat it while the two of them just watch." Yun Chuzhou had no choice and could only take out another roasted snow rabbit for little black bird. Finally, she managed to placate him after wasting one of his feathers. Although the giant winged bird's tail feathers were eye-catching, they were not as fast as little black bird's feathers because of their large size. They could only move a few hundred feet in an hour. The giant tsunami turtle saw Yun Chuzhou mumbling and then placed 2 feathers on the surface of the sea. It thought to itself, what is this little girl doing? Had she really found a clue? Could it be that she was afraid that it would be angry and tried to act like she found something? The giant tsunami turtle could no longer hold back its temper and cried out a few times. Seeing that the turtle was getting impatient, Yun Chuzhou quickly rowed the raft to the front of the giant tsunami turtle. Yun Chuzhou babbled about her guess, and the giant tsunami turtle was stunned after hearing it. Although it did not understand the scientific principles that Yun Chuzhou said, it still understood the point of letting the feathers follow the current to find the enchantment. It thought to itself, although this human girl's spiritual power was a little weak, she was really smart. She actually found a clever way to find the barrier. The giant tsunami turtle was also excited. After being trapped here for 10 years, if it wasn't for the fact that the turtle-type demon beasts were able to resist hunger, it would have died off long ago. Now that it saw the light of dawn, it was naturally very happy. The next day, Yun Chuzhou used the excuse of observing the giant winged bird's feathers to climb onto the shell of the giant tsunami turtle. She covered the shell with the palace mistress velvet blanket and lay on it happily. Then, she took out a storybook and started reading. Why was she not observing the feathers? That thing would not float very far for another 2 hours. There was still time to look at it tomorrow morning. TSK, that old witch, the palace mistress, has given me something useful. This velvet blanket is a must-have item when traveling. Yun Chujio touched the velvet blanket underneath and muttered. On the morning of the 5th day, Yun Chujio discovered that the giant winged bird's feather had been circling around a specific spot and did not continue to drift forward from there. Her eyes lit up. It was there. Chapter 794, Found the Barrier. Yun Chujio saw the giant winged bird's feathers stayed spinning on one spot. She stretched her neck and shouted, "Master Godly Turtle, listen to my command and charge forward." The giant tsunami turtle was so excited that it did not think too much about being treated as a mount. It carried Yun Chujio and swam in the direction she pointed. Yun Chujio was so proud of herself. So what if it was a level 13 demonic beast? It would still obediently be my mount. The giant tsunami turtle did not know that the person on its back had gloated over being able to command it so easily. It followed Yun Chujio's instructions and quickly swam to the giant winged bird's feathers. Yun Chujio waved her hand and a purple lightning bolt struck straight ahead. The giant tsunami turtle was shocked. It thought that heavenly lightning had descended from the sky and almost dove into the water. The little human girl on its back said with a smile, "Master Godly Turtle, this is my lightning bolt. There is indeed a barrier in front of me. My lightning was blocked after I threw a bolt towards it." The giant tsunami turtle was dumbfounded. Could it be that I have fallen behind in 10 years? Has the outside world become so strange? Can humans throw bolts of purple heavenly lightning now? And the little girl in her teens? Yun Chujio immediately threw a few more heavenly lightning bolts at the barrier in front of her. The barrier here was different from the barrier in the ancient sword tomb. It was an invisible barrier. Only after being attacked by spiritual power could one realize that there was a barrier in front of them. The giant tsunami turtle was dumbfounded again. Damn it, who can tell me why this little girl was able to throw bolts repeatedly? Even I can't do such a continuous spiritual attack. Master Godly Turtle, don't just stand there. Hurry up and attack. Yun Chujio couldn't help but urge on the giant tsunami turtle when she saw that it did not move. Only then did the giant tsunami turtle come back to its senses. I can't let this little girl look down on me. I'll let her see the power of a level 13 sea beast. The giant tsunami turtle suddenly opened its mouth, and hundreds of water arrows shot out. Not only that, it swam forward for a short distance, and then swung its huge claws toward the barrier. The giant tsunami turtle could feel the existence of the barrier. It thought to itself, this human little girl is really smart. There really is a barrier here. As long as we work together to break it, we should be able to get out. The human and turtle attacked continuously for several hours, but they did not manage to break the barrier. Yun Chujio had already mentally prepared for that outcome. If it were so easy to break the barrier, this place would not exist anymore. Master Godly Turtle, it seems that there is nothing more we can do today. Let's rest for the night. We will continue tomorrow. Yun Chujio stopped attacking and said to the giant tsunami turtle. The giant tsunami turtle thought to itself, although this little girl is smart, she is still young. This attack to break the barrier must be continuous. Once it stopped, all previous efforts would be wasted. However, the spiritual power of the giant tsunami turtle was almost exhausted, so it unwillingly stopped as well. Master Godly Turtle, don't be discouraged. I will have a secret weapon tomorrow. We will break the barrier tomorrow. Yun Chujio said with full information. The giant tsunami turtle did not take it to heart at all. It thought that Yun Chujio was just boasting. A child was just a child after all. After achieving some results, it started to show off. A secret weapon? What secret weapon could you possibly have? Could you be as powerful as this turtle? You overestimated yourself. However, the next day, when the giant tsunami turtle saw the secret weapon that Yun Chujio mentioned, it was so shocked that its eyeballs almost fell out. Chapter 795, A Little Devil. The next day, Yun Chujio said to the giant tsunami turtle with a smile, "Master Godly Turtle, I need your cooperation for my secret weapon to work. I need to borrow your back. You must maintain your balance and not let me fall into the sea." The giant tsunami turtle curled its lips in disdain. She spoke as if she were telling the truth. I want to see what her so-called secret weapon was. Yun Chujio poured all the spirit tools and immortal tools onto the turtle's back. The giant tsunami turtle twisted its neck in disdain and thought to itself, could this little girl be a blacksmith? Where did she get so much scrap metal from? The giant tsunami turtle did not even think about the clutter being spirit tools. If even a large sect did not have so many spirit tools, how could a little girl have any? After Yun Chujio finished instructing the giant tsunami turtle, she sat down cross-legged. She had learned from the previous lesson and decided to command the spirit tools to attack while refining the thunder root's spiritual power, in case some could not be supplied at the last moment. After everything was ready, Yun Chujio waved her small claws. Group 1, go. As Yun Chujio spoke, more than 100 spirit tools and immortal tools attacked the barrier in front of them. The scene turned into utter chaos as the attack began. Although the spiritual and immortal items were indignant, Yun Chujio had threatened them last night. If they did not do their best to help her this time, she would throw them all to the bottom of the sea and even use purple lightning to scare them. The spiritual items were on the verge of collapse, so they had to comply. Wu, this little girl was a little devil with no horns on her head. She was too terrifying. At that moment, the giant tsunami turtle was dumbfounded. Holy shit! What was going on? The clutter on its back was not scrap metal. They were actually spirit tools. And immortal tools. Damn, its old heart couldn't take it anymore. There were thousands of them on its back. Were they all spirit tools and immortal tools? Yun Chujio waved her little hands again. Group 1, retreat. Group 2, attack. As the new batch of spirit tools began to attack, the first batch of spirit tools flew back onto the turtle's back. The giant tsunami turtle was certain then. Fuck, those things on its back were all spirit tools and immortal tools. Fuck. It was too scary. Just what kind of power did this little girl have? How could she have so many spirit tools and immortal tools? Wait a minute. First of all, where did she get so many spiritual and immortal artifacts in the first place? Did she make these immortal artifacts and spiritual artifacts acknowledge her as their master? Oh my god! Could it be that Azure Mystic Continent has changed so much in 10 years? Have humans become so awesome? Have immortal artifacts become worthless now? Do immortal artifacts not even need moral integrity anymore? So many of them acknowledge this little girl as their master. Wait. That's not right. Even if the little girl could get so many spirit and immortal artifacts, even if these spirit and immortal artifacts did not have moral integrity, how could the little girl have such a powerful spiritual sense? How could she command hundreds of spirit artifacts to attack at the same time? How was this possible? Wait. Also, how could she have so much lightning spiritual energy? It seemed to be inexhaustible. This didn't make sense. The giant tsunami turtle felt that it was most likely not awake. It must be dreaming. It rubbed its eyes with its claws and secretly bit its own claws. Hiss, so painful. It was actually real. Oh my god. Fortunately, it did not eat this little girl to relieve its boredom at that time. If it really wanted to eat her, its old life might be in danger. Chapter 796, An easy target. Yun Chujio could command these spirit tools and immortal tools to carry out a single attack, but it was not feasible to deal with demonic beasts and humans. Her spiritual sense could not support so many spirit tools to carry out a coordinated attack. However, the giant tsunami turtle did not know that in its heart, Yun Chujia's status was already equal to that of the devil. It made up its mind that in the future, it must be more polite to the little girl. Otherwise, if the little girl commanded these spirit tools to attack it, it would be turned into Swiss cheese. Yun Chujio did not know about the giant tsunami turtle's change in perception of her. At that moment, she concentrated on refining her spiritual power and commanded the spirit tools to attack the barrier. Although she could not see the barrier, according to Yun Chujia's analysis of the speed of the spiritual power consumption, the barrier here was much weaker than the barrier in the ancient sword tomb. Soon, a crack would be formed. Yun Chujio said to the giant tsunami turtle, "Master Godly Turtle, I estimate that in another hour, a crack will be formed in the enchantment. However, your body is huge, so I'm afraid you won't be able to squeeze out through it. How about I put you into the spiritual beast bag for a while and let you out after we break through the barrier? What do you think?" Yun Chujio thought for a while and added, "Don't worry, you can enter my spiritual beast bag without recognizing me as your owner." The giant tsunami turtle hurriedly nodded. Right now, it was very afraid of Yun Chujio, so it did not dare disagree. Besides, what the little girl said made sense. Looking at the area where the spirit tools and immortal tools were attacking, it would not be able to fit through the gap. What the little girl said made a lot of sense. Seeing the giant tsunami turtle nod in agreement, Yun Chujio continued, "Later, when I say it's time to take you in, don't resist. We must make the most of our time." The giant tsunami turtle nodded repeatedly and was extremely obedient. Although Yun Chujio felt it was a little strange, she did not have the mood to think about that at that moment. She focused all her attention on continuing to attack the barrier. An hour later, a sea breeze blew in. Yun Chujio was delighted. "It's time. Get in." Almost instantly, she put the spirit tools and the giant tsunami turtle into her storage ring and the spirit beast bag respectively. Then, she rushed out toward the place where the wind blew in. Yun Chujio almost cried with joy when she saw the occasional school of fish jumping up from the sea. They had got through. They had really escaped this time. Yun Chujio turned her head to look at the area that was surrounded by the array just now, and as expected, it disappeared again. Behind it was the endless sea, and there were occasionally schools of fish jumping out of the water. Yun Chujio thought about it, but she did not immediately release the giant tsunami turtle. It did not eat her inside the array, but it did not mean that it would not eat her now that they had escaped the array. She was not its enemy, but the sea was its home, so it would have an advantage if it tried to attack her. She would release it when she was about to go ashore. The giant tsunami turtle did not know what was happening outside and was unable to communicate with Yun Chujio. Only then did it realize that it had been tricked by the little girl. Did I just make myself an easy target? However, it was too late to regret now. It could only leave things to fate. Yun Chujio summoned the chopping board and wanted to ride on it to leave the area. Unexpectedly, the chopping board still could not fly. Yun Chujio frowned and took out the sound transmission talisman to test it, but it did not work either. What the hell was going on? Could it be that this place was still inside the array formation? Yun Chujio had no choice but to take out the simple wooden raft. After getting on it, she asked the little black bird, "Xiao Hei, ask the old bastard if flying spirit tools and talismans also don't work in the area of the sea where it originally lived." "Master," the old bastard nodded. The little black bird said to Yun Chujio through his divine sense. Chapter 797, The Endless Sea. Yun Chujio was both happy and worried. She was happy that there seemed to be no array formation here, and she had finally escaped from the sea area that she was trapped in. At the same time, she was worried about the reason that flying spirit tools and talismans were prohibited in this area. What the hell was this place? Yun Chujio suddenly remembered that she had once read about a particular area of sea in the library. There was an endless sea a million li away from the spirit radiance sect. Flying was prohibited in the sky above the endless sea, and talismans could not be used. The demon beasts in the sea were not only diverse but also very fierce. However, the endless sea produced a kind of giant sea clam. Its body would have waterproof beads of different sizes. Although the effect was much worse than waterproof beads, embedding it on equipment would imbue it with certain waterproofing effects. Moreover, a person could hold it in his mouth for 15 minutes without drowning. Because this kind of waterproof bead was only available in the endless sea, it was very expensive. There were often fishermen and cultivators who risked diving into the sea to collect said beads. Yun Chujia's small face twitched. The endless sea, as the name suggested, was infinitely big. Moreover, there were many sea beasts in the endless sea. Her small body would not be able to cope here. She was still worried about letting the old bastard out. It seemed that she could only take things one step at a time. It would be best if she could meet a ship that came to harvest waterproof beads. Even if she could not, she could still find an island to rest on. It had been such a long time since she saw land. She really missed it. Yun Chujio was stunned for a moment. She blinked her eyes and put on the ring that hid her gender. She took out a set of men's clothes from the storage ring and wore it over her clothes. She also changed her hairstyle into a man's hairstyle and decorated her eyebrows and facial features briefly. Now that she had learned her lesson, it was better to dress as a man. Yun Chujio decided to go downstream. That way, she could save her energy and find the right direction. Perhaps because there were a lot of fish in this area, the sea beasts were not lacking in food. Yun Chujio floated on the sea for more than half a day, but there was not a single sea beast that attacked. When it was almost evening, Yun Chujio saw a small island in front of her. It was lush, and there should be many plants growing on it. She was very excited, and she could finally get down to earth. An hour later, Yun Chujio approached the small island. Yun Chujio put the raft into her storage ring, and then carefully walked onto the beach. In the distance was a dense forest. Yun Chujio tilted her ear to listen for a moment. It was very quiet, and there were no sounds of demon beasts. However, Yun Chujio did not dare enter the dense forest unprepared. On the beach, the field of vision was wide, and it was easy to be on guard. If she entered the dense forest, she would be in an unfamiliar place, and it would be very easy to get lost. Yun Chujio took out her voice transmission talisman and tried it, but it still could not be used. She sighed. It seemed that she could only rely on herself. The gigolo would never dream that she would end up in such a distant endless sea. Yun Chujio let out the flaming three-tailed fox king and let it disguise itself as a two-tailed scarlet flame fox to stand guard for her. Then, she took out the all-purpose small tent and lay down. She proceeded to sleep and snore the entire night, much to the fox king's annoyance. In those few days, Yun Chujio did not dare to relax for even a moment. Even though she had been on the turtle's back for a few days, she was still on tenterhooks. Who knew when that bastard would turn hostile? When she slept until midnight, the flaming three-tailed fox king suddenly let out a shrilly scream. Yun Chujio was so scared that she jumped up. Chapter 798, A group of giant crabs. Yun Chujio was awakened by the cry of the flaming three-tailed fox king. She saw it pointing its claws to the front in fear. Yun Chujio looked in the direction it was pointing at and could not help but feel her scalp go numb. Hundreds of giant crabs were quickly crawling toward the island from the sea. The pincers of these crabs were more than 3 feet long, were as thick as an adult's thigh and emitted a faint blue light. It was a terrifying sight. Azure giant pincer crab. Tier 8 sea creature. Yun Chujio's head buzzed. She could still deal with 20 to 30 of them, but there were hundreds of them. Even if she released Big Bastard, they might not be able to escape unscathed. Moreover, it did not have the advantage on land. The azure giant pincer crab had already noticed Yun Chujio. They waved their pincers and aggressively crawled toward her. After weighing the pros and cons, Yun Chujio put the flaming three-tailed fox king into her spirit beast pouch and ran toward the dense forest. The azure giant pincer crab followed closely behind. Yun Chujio slowly climbed up a thick tree. After climbing up, she realized that it was a kind of coconut-like tree. There were already many fruits on it. Yun Chujio immediately understood why these azure giant pincer crab would climb up this small island at night. They were here to eat these coconut fruits. When the azure giant pincer crab saw Yun Chujio climb up the coconut tree, a few of them also quickly climbed up the tree. Yun Chujio quickly waved her hand and purple lightning struck at the azure giant pincer crab. The few azure giant pincer crab were caught off guard and were struck by the lightning, falling with a plop. Before Yun Chujio could let out a sigh of relief, she saw more azure giant pincer crab climbing up the tree where she was. Yun Chujio could not help but curse in her heart. Damn it, these azure giant pincer crab were indeed very fierce. They dared to approach even after seeing their companions being struck by lightning. Although Yun Chujio knocked a few of them off the tree, there was still a steady stream climbing up the tree. It was as if they would not stop until they ate Yun Chujio. Fortunately, these blue giant crab pincers were unwilling to topple the coconut tree. Otherwise, Yun Chujio's situation would be even worse. Yun Chujio rolled her eyes and used sticky silk to wrap around the trunk of another coconut tree. Then, she swung over to it. Just as Yun Chujio heaved a sigh of relief, the other blue giant crab pincers on the ground climbed up the coconut tree where she was. Yun Chujio had no choice but to choose another coconut tree and swing over. After repeating this over and over again, every tree that Yun Chujio went to would be followed by several azure giant pincer crab. Yun Chujio felt that this was not the way to go on. It was still early in the morning, so she had to think of a way. Clang! Just as Yun Chujio was frowning, a mature coconut fell by her on the ground. A few azure giant pincer crab immediately surrounded her and fought for food. Yun Chujio's eyes suddenly lit up. The scene in front of her was very similar to the scene in the desert of the Great Void Mystic Realm. At that time, she used cactus fruits instead. She could try that. Yun Chujio swung onto a new coconut tree again and picked a ripe coconut. She used a large kitchen knife to cut a hole and stuffed a cactus fruit into it. Then, she threw it into the middle of a group of azure giant pincer crabs. Sure enough, the azure giant pincer crab once again snatched the coconut. They were completely unaware of the cactus fruit mixed in it. Not long after, the azure giant pincer crab seemed to have gone crazy and began to attack their companions with their pincers. Yun Chujio could not help but be secretly happy. Little fellow, you want to eat me? It'll make you kill each other. Chapter 799, Running and Chasing. Yun Chujio saw that the cactus fruit was effective against these azure giant pincer crabs, so she swung to another tree and started to make poisonous coconut fruits, throwing them to the ground. After eating the coconut with added ingredients, the crabs not only fought with their own kind on the ground, but also climbed up the tree and fought with the azure giant pincer crab on the tree. After Yun Chujio threw dozens of poisonous coconut fruits, almost half of the azure giant pincer crab bit the dust on the same spot. Yun Chujio rode on the tree branch and was very proud. There was no comparison between those with brains and those without brains. As long as she waited until dawn, these azure giant pincer crab, who were afraid of the scorching sun, would retreat back to the sea and she would be safe. Yun Chujio was obviously happy too early. These azure giant pincer crabs were much smarter than the desert scorpions back then. They soon discovered the reason for their companions' madness and stopped eating the poisonous coconut fruits that Yun Chujio threw down. Instead, they climbed up the tree where Yun Chujio was. Oh my, I didn't expect them to have a brain. Little Joe Thunderbolt. Although Yun Chujio was very happy, she quickly swung to another tree. A new round of escape began again. Yun Chujio ran around the forest. The azure giant pincer crab that ate the poisonous coconut fruits were much stronger than the tier 3 scorpions. The poison quickly dissipated and they joined in the pursuit of Yun Chujio. In the end, they actually began to divide the work. A few of them were responsible for a tree and had climbed up the tree beforehand, leaving Yun Chujio no place to rest. Yun Chujio could not help but curse in her heart. Damn it! These crabs are becoming more intelligent. What should I do? Run into the sea? The sky is so dark. There must be many demonic beasts in the sea. If I go into the sea, I'd be courting death. Yun Chujio's eyes suddenly lit up. Aha! Although these azure giant pincer crab were smart, they were not as smart as humans. They thought that if she could not move, they would be able to eat her. However, they forgot that if they did that, she would be able to defeat them one by one. There were 5 to 6 azure giant pincer crabs on each tree, so it was a piece of cake for her to deal with them. Yun Chujio's spirit was shaken. She fired a few purple lightning bolts at the few azure giant pincer crabs that were climbing up her tree. Although the shell of those azure giant pincer crab was strong, there was still a gap between them and Yun Chujio's level. They were struck by Yun Chujio's lightning bolts and rolled down. Yun Chujio released the flaming 3-tailed fox and Little Black. She commanded them to shoot fireballs at the azure giant pincer crabs on the ground. The crabs did not expect Yun Chujio to have a backup plan, so they were instantly burned to death. Yun Chujio struck several lightning bolts at the crabs on the other tree. After the azure giant pincer crabs fell to the ground, the flaming 3-tailed fox king and Little Black continued to burn them with fireballs. The azure giant pincer crab did not expect that what they thought was a clever plan would put them in a passive position. They had no choice but to climb down from the tree and attack Yun Chujio again. Yun Chujio saw that the azure giant pincer crabs had changed their strategy. She stopped fighting and continued to move around on the tree top. The crab thought proudly as it ran. This is a strategy that had been tested in practice. The enemy chased, I ran. The enemy attacks and then gets tired, I fight. The enemy retreats, I chase. These stupid crabs still wanted to fight with her. In their dreams. After a few rounds of struggle, the sun rose from the east. Although the azure giant pincer crabs hated it to death, they could only crawl back into the sea dejectedly. Chapter 800, Fooling the Big Bastard. Yun Chujio heaved a sigh of relief when she saw the azure giant pincer crabs crawling back into the sea. She climbed down from the tree and sat on the beach, panting heavily. After resting for a while, Yun Chujio rubbed her chin and pondered about her next step. She could not stay on this small island any longer. Those azure giant pincer crabs would definitely come back to take revenge tonight. There might even be more of them coming to take revenge together. After all, this small island was akin to their orchard. They would definitely kill her before giving up. Should she continue to drift on the sea? It was still alright during the day, but at night, it would be a disaster. Although she had the water-repellent bead, how could she be a match for those aquatic beasts? Yun Chujio thought about it. The only good way now was to release Big Bastard and let it protect her. The Big Bastard was a tier 13 sea creature. The other sea creatures would definitely not dare to provoke it. However, the problem now was, how could she get it to escort her willingly? The Big Bastard was very proud. Not to mention escorting her, if she let it out, it might turn hostile and eat her. Initially, she used food to curry its favor, but it did not lack food now, so the food strategy was obviously useless. What if she tricked it? Yun Chujio did not have the idea of taking the giant tsunami turtle as her spiritual pet. Firstly, although it was powerful, it was not an immortal beast, so Yun Chujio did not care too much for it. Secondly, the giant tsunami turtle was so powerful that she could not tame it. Yun Chujo thought for a while, then walked to the sea and released the giant tsunami turtle. The giant tsunami turtle was regretful a long time ago. It thought that Yun Chujo would definitely find a chance to kill it, but it was trapped in the spirit beast pouch and could not do anything. Who would have thought that it would be released? Master Godly Turtle, we have escaped. You can leave now. Yun Chujo said with a smile. The turtle was a little confused. That simple. It was being let go just like that. If it had not seen Yun Chujo attack the barrier with her flying sword, it might have swallowed Yun Chujo in one gulp. After all, this little girl had seen its embarrassing side. It was really embarrassing. Now, it was afraid of Yun Chujo and did not dare to think of making an enemy of her. The giant tsunami turtle nodded at Yun Chujo and turned to leave. Yun Chujo was so smart. Before, she did not pay much attention to the changes of the giant tsunami turtle's behavior. Now that she saw the giant tsunami turtle being so obedient, she understood a little and immediately knew what to do next. Yun Chujo sighed faintly and said, "Sigh. Sea creatures are better. They can move freely in the sea. Unlike me, I can only be trapped on this small island. At night, a group of big crabs want to eat me. My life is so bitter. I'm too kind. I could have escaped the enchantment alone, but I still. Sigh, best not to talk about it. Not every turtle knows how to repay kindness. Last night, I was afraid that those big crabs would hurt a certain turtle. I fought alone for the whole night. Who would have thought that at dawn, the turtle would go off to enjoy itself? How sad." The giant tsunami turtle was not stupid. It was stunned for a moment before it understood what Yun Chujo meant. It hesitated. It was not a kind-hearted creature. Although the little girl had indirectly saved it, it was already grateful that it did not eat her. Was it going to escort her to the shore? It was not worth it. Yun Chujo saw that the giant tsunami turtle did not leave immediately. Her heart was filled with joy. There was a possibility. Chapter 801, Riding the Bastard to Sea. I wouldn't command a turtle for nothing. If a turtle escorts me ashore, I have a lot of healing pills in my storage ring that I can give when the time comes, Yun Chujo said. When the giant tsunami turtle heard this, its eyes lit up. Although there were some hemostatic herbs growing on the bottom of the sea, the effect was not very good. It heard that the pills refined by human cultivators were very effective, so it might as well go with the flow and agree to escort the little girl. It would not only stop her blabbering, but it also stands to get some medicine that can stop bleeding. When the giant tsunami turtle thought of that, it howled at Yun Chujo a few times, indicating that it agreed to escort her to land. Yun Chujo immediately beamed with joy. "Don't worry, Master Godly Turtle. I won't mistreat you. In order to show my sincerity, I'll first give you a super-grade blood coagulation pill so you can have a look at its quality." Yun Chujo tossed a super-grade blood-clotting pill to the giant tsunami turtle. The turtle sniffed it and immediately smelled a strong medicinal fragrance. The fragrance was different from those from undersea herbs, so it was very satisfied. When a demonic beast reached a certain level, it would evolve and develop a storage space of a certain size. The giant tsunami turtle kept the blood-clotting pill and nodded at Yun Chujo, indicating that they could set off. "Master Godly Turtle, wait a moment. Those damn crabs tormented me last night. Let me go and harvest all the ripe coconuts so I can infuriate them to death." After saying that, Yun Chujo hopped into the dense forest. The giant tsunami turtle's face was stiff. It sounded nice, but she wants to anger the crabs to death. "I think you want to eat it." Yun Chujo brought the flaming three-tailed fox king, and kept the ripe coconuts into her storage ring. She then looked at the few crabs on the ground that were not burnt. She blinked her eyes. It was said that the taste of these things was very delicious and could not be wasted. Therefore, she kept the few azure giant pincer crabs that were not burnt into the storage ring. Yun Chujio struggled for a while before she hopped out. Master Godly Turtle, the coconut juice is really good. Come. Have a taste. Yun Chujio threw a few large coconuts at the giant tsunami turtle. It had never eaten them before. It imitated Yun Chujio and made a hole in it, then it drank the juice inside. It was really tasty. However, these coconuts were too small for the giant tsunami turtle. After eating a few of them, the giant tsunami turtle lost interest. It urged Yun Chujio to leave quickly. It could not wait to catch fish to eat. Yun Chujio climbed onto the back of the giant tsunami turtle with a smile. She was happy. This was the solution to the big problem. She did not need to row the raft and had a capable bodyguard. It was a great deal. Yun Chujio was obviously thinking too simply. After the giant tsunami turtle swam to the deep sea area, it dove into the water and began to hunt some low-level sea creatures. Yun Chujio was lying on the back of the turtle happily. She fell into the sea with a plop. She was so angry that she cursed in her heart. Damn it! It's indeed a big bastard. Diving just like that. Did you consider the feelings of the passengers on your back? Yun Chujio had no choice but to follow behind the giant tsunami turtle sadly. As she watched the huge creature start to eat crazily, those low-level sea creatures were considered unlucky. Some of them were swallowed by the giant tsunami turtle before they could even react. Yun Chujio watched and felt a little curious. She wanted to test if her little Geo Thunderbolt would work well in the sea, so she picked a Tier 3 red-spotted swordfish and struck it with lightning. After the strike, both the low-level sea creatures and the giant tsunami turtle were dumbfounded. Even Yun Chujio herself was shocked. Chapter 802, How Can Lightning Pivot? Yun Chujio's lightning was like a small purple loach, casually moving toward the red-spotted swordfish. That was right. It was moving. Its speed was slow, like a slow-motion replay, moving bit by bit, making people anxious with anticipation. The giant tsunami turtle curled its lips unkindly. This little girl was very powerful on the surface of the water, but it did not expect her to be so weak in the water. Such a weak little lightning probably would not even kill a Tier 1 sea creature. Yun Chujio was also dumbfounded. Damn it. What the hell was this? Was that the lightning that she struck out? Was that even worthy of being called lightning? It was simply a little loach. No, even the loach swam faster than it. Although the red-spotted swordfish was very disdainful, it still swam to the side quickly. It was not to avoid Yun Chujio's lightning bolt, but to avoid the giant tsunami turtle. While it was in a daze, it quickly fled for its life. However, at that moment, something that shocked everyone happened. The slow purple loach actually pivoted. After pivoting, it still slowly chased after the red-spotted swordfish. The giant tsunami turtle's big eyes were about to pop out. Fuck. How can a lightning bolt turn? Fortunately, it was slow, or else it would have been dead. The red-spotted swordfish was shocked, but it was relieved to see that the little purple loach was still so slow. It continued to swim forward at a fast speed. Although Yun Chujio was surprised that the little purple loach could turn, she was still very disappointed. With its speed, it could not even catch up with a snail, let alone chase after demon beasts in the sea. Just when Yun Chujio was extremely disappointed, the little purple loach suddenly sped up. The red-spotted swordfish was not prepared at all and was instantly struck. Then, it flipped over and died. The little purple lightning disappeared as well, as if nothing had happened. The giant tsunami turtle was dumbfounded. Damn! How does it know how to do this? That little purple loach actually knows how to confuse the enemy. You must be joking. Although this little girl concealed her strength, she's only at the third level of the Spirit Emperor realm. How could her spiritual power manifest spiritual intelligence? This is impossible. The lightning must have been a countercurrent, which was why it moved slowly. Then, it sped up because of another countercurrent. Yes, it must be like that. Yun Chujio could not believe it either. The ice dragon that the gigolo's power transformed into had intelligence and could kill demon beasts on its own. However, the one she used was clearly in the shape of a lightning bolt. Moreover, her spiritual power was so low. How could the lightning have intelligence? It must be a coincidence. She tried again. Thinking of this, Yun Chujio also shot out a lightning toward a tier 4 swordfin pomfret. The giant tsunami turtle stopped hunting and the sea creatures stopped running. They stared at the purple lightning that was also moving forward slowly. The tier 4 pomfret had learned its lesson from the swordfish. It swam forward quickly and kept changing directions. The purple lightning accelerated and chased after it. The swordfin pomfret saw the purple lightning bolt chasing after it and swam forward desperately. However, the purple lightning bolt behind it was extremely fast. In just a few seconds, the purple lightning bolt had caught up, the swordfin pomfret died miserably. Chapter 803, A Blow to the Beast. The giant turtle felt that it could not wrap its brain around the situation. Oh my God, what kind of monster of a human have I met? It's already scary enough that she can command so many spiritual and immortal items at the same time. Why is her lightning so abnormal even when it's in the water? How can beasts continue to live like this? It's really a blow to the beast kind. Yun Chujio was also stunned for a while, and then started laughing arrogantly. Ha ha ha. It was only a matter of time before gold would shine. She did not expect her lightning to be so awesome in the water. It was even more powerful than on land. This was pretty much a torpedo. The kind of torpedo that had its own navigation system. When the giant tsunami turtle saw Yun Chujio laugh, it thought of a very important question. Only then did it realize and wonder why this little girl could laugh underwater. If she had a waterproof pearl in her mouth, it was impossible for her to even laugh. Moreover, they had been underwater for a long time. It had been more than 15 minutes. Could it be that she had a water-repellent pearl? Damn, what was this girl's background? Not only did she have so many immortal and spiritual artifacts, but she also had the long-lost water-repellent pearl. At that time, the sea turtle was extremely glad that it did not choose to be Yun Chujio's enemy. This little girl's background was definitely not simple. Perhaps she still had some powerful magic treasures that she had not used. Perhaps she even had a divine artifact. The sea creatures that were eating the melon were stunned for a moment before they scattered and ran in all directions. Damn, that sea turtle was already enough to scare the beasts. Now, there was even a human little pervert. If they did not run immediately, when would they do so? The sea turtle had almost finished eating. It was a little shocked by Yun Chujio, so it did not bother about the low-level sea creatures. It floated up to the surface of the water and gestured for Yun Chujio to sit on its back. Yun Chujio only had one word in her mind, awesome. She originally thought that the sea was her weakness. She did not expect that the lightning would be like a fish in water when it was actually underwater. It actually had intelligence. What a pleasant surprise. She laughed as she thought about it. Hee, those with fire root spirit would be unlucky if they were in the water. The fireball would be extinguished before it's even released. Her heavenly thunder root spirit was still the best. In the next few days, Yun Chujio's life was very comfortable. Other than the giant sea turtle diving into the sea occasionally to look for food, the rest of the time, Yun Chujio was more or less the same as she was on land. If she was not cultivating, she was reading a storybook and was very relaxed. The giant sea turtle was almost akin to being king of the sea. Those sea creatures could not avoid it in time, so they naturally would not go looking for trouble. Therefore, the life of the man and the turtle was not bad. The endless sea was too big. The giant tsunami turtle carried Yun Chujio for 6 days, but it was still a vast expanse, with no end in sight. On that day, Yun Chujio was basking happily in the sun when the giant tsunami turtle suddenly let out a roar. Yun Chujio was shocked and quickly sat up. 2 huge splashes appeared in the distance, and the 2 huge creatures revealed themselves. Yun Chujio's heart skipped a beat. They were actually 2 Tier 13 bloodthirsty sword sharks. Bloodthirsty sword sharks were brutal by nature, and they liked to hunt high-level sea creatures the most. They probably had their eyes on Big Bastard, and their speed was much faster than Big Bastard, so it could only accept the challenge. However, even if Big Bastard could defeat one shark in a one-on-one fight, what about the other one? Should Yun Chujio deal with it? Do not joke around. Although her little lightning was a little strange, she could still deal with low to mid-level sea creatures. However, would dealing with a Tier 13 bloodthirsty sword shark not be courting death? Chapter 804. The powerful girl's mistake. Yun Chujio was not confident, but the giant tsunami turtle did not think so. It thought that Yun Chujio was amazing. Even if she could not beat the bloodthirsty sword shark, she could still command spiritual and immortal items to attack the bloodthirsty sword shark. Therefore, when it saw the 2 bloodthirsty sword shark swimming over quickly, it dove into the sea, rushing toward one of the bloodthirsty sword shark. Yun Chujio fell into the sea with a thud. Then, it saw the turtle rushing toward one of the bloodthirsty sword sharks. Fuck. What did it mean? Was it really going to let her deal with a shark alone? You big bastard, you're really ambitious. Alright, it's also because I was too pretentious. What should we do now? When the 2 bloodthirsty sword sharks saw the turtle rushing over, they completely ignored Yun Chujio. In their eyes, this human little girl was just a weakling. They could not even be bothered with her. Yun Chujio rubbed her chin. Should she sneak away? This was not right. Putting aside the matter of loyalty, without the big bastard, her journey would be even more dangerous. It was basically impossible for her to go ashore. She still had to help Big Bastard kill or chase away the 2 bloodthirsty sword sharks. Yun Chujio shouted at one of the bloodthirsty sword shark, "Hey! 2 against 1, what kind of fair fight is that? If you have the ability, spar with me." The shark was stunned at first, then it revealed a contemptuous expression. Was this human weakling tired of living? It was more important to kill this giant tsunami turtle first. After eating its inner core, the 2 of them might evolve. Seeing that the sharks ignored her, Yun Chujio continued to curse, "Hey! Ugly monster with a toad's mouth, don't tell me you don't dare to fight with me." Toad's mouth. Ugly monster. These 2 bloodthirsty sword sharks were male and female. The one Yun Chujio provoked was a female. Hearing Yun Chujio say that it was a toad's mouth, she immediately became angry. She gave up on the giant tsunami turtle and pounced on Yun Chujio. She thought that it would not take long before she swallowed this weak human girl. After that, she could help deal with the giant tsunami turtle. Seeing the shark rushing over, Yun Chujio quickly swam to the side. The bloodthirsty sword shark curled its lips disdainfully and sucked the water fiercely. Yun Chujio felt her small body floating uncontrollably into the bloodthirsty sword shark's mouth. Yun Chujio gritted her teeth and waved her hand, sending out several purple lightning bolts, hoping that they could hurt the bloodthirsty sword shark and make it stop sucking the water. Although the bloodthirsty sword shark was a little surprised when it saw Yun Chujio sending out several purple lightning bolts, it did not care too much. What if she had a heavenly thunder root spirit? Such weak lightning bolts would not cause any damage to it. Therefore, the bloodthirsty sword shark continued to swallow water and did not even try to dodge. The purple lightning bolts changed their previous slow and leisurely nature and quickly rushed toward the bloodthirsty sword shark's mouth. The lightning bolts were very fast, and the bloodthirsty sword shark was swallowing water violently. In less than 10 breaths, the small purple lightning bolts had rushed into the mouth of the bloodthirsty sword shark. The small lightning bolts struck toward the upper jaw of the bloodthirsty sword shark. The bloodthirsty sword shark cried out in pain. Not only did it stop swallowing water, it immediately began to roll violently, and the water waves pushed Yun Chujio over 1,000 feet away. Yun Chujio originally wanted to just save the turtle, but she did not expect to accidentally hit the shark. The bloodthirsty sword shark's body was strong, but the skin in its mouth was relatively weak. After being struck by a few small lightning bolts, it still felt an unbearable pain even though serious damage was not done. The turtle saw the bloodthirsty sword shark suffer while it was fighting at the side. It sighed in its heart. It said that this human girl was not simple. Look, the bloodthirsty sword shark suffered a loss in just one exchange. This girl was really too awesome. Chapter 805, How to Make a Turn. Yun Chujio was not as optimistic as the giant tsunami turtle. It was just a fluke. As long as she could delay until the giant tsunami turtle killed the other bloodthirsty sword shark, it would be fine. The bloodthirsty sword shark rolled a few times before the pain in its upper jaw slightly eased. It fiercely shot hundreds of water arrows at Yun Chujio. Yun Chujio suddenly sank, and the water arrows flew over her head. The bloodthirsty sword shark opened its mouth, and hundreds of water arrows flew over. Yun Chujio had no choice but to dodge the water arrows. While Yun Chujio dodged, she shot out several small purple lightning bolts. When the bloodthirsty sword shark saw that Yun Chujio's purple lightning bolts were not coming in its direction, it could not help but despise her. It was just because it did not pay attention that it suffered a little loss. This time, the lightning bolts were not coming in its direction. Did she think that these small lightning bolts would turn? Next, the small lightning bolts used their actions to show the bloodthirsty sword shark that they could, in fact, turn, and that they were very agile. The bloodthirsty sword shark looked at the purple lightning bolts with a dumbfounded expression. They actually turned and charged toward it. Fuck. What's going on? How did this weak human lightning bolt turn around? This doesn't make sense. The bloodthirsty sword shark quickly shut its mouth, afraid that the small purple lightning bolts would enter its mouth again. However, it never expected that a few small lightning bolts would charge toward its eyes and nose. The bloodthirsty sword shark quickly retreated and spat out several water arrows to intercept the small purple lightning bolts midway. Although the purple lightning had some intelligence, it was not enough to last for too long. After being intercepted by the water arrows, it dissipated into the water. At that time, Yun Chujio sent a few more purple lightning bolts over, and the bloodthirsty sword shark fired a few water arrows at the purple lightning bolts. Although the purple lightning bolts could turn around, there were too many water arrows, so the purple lightning bolts had almost depleted their spiritual power before they could reach the bloodthirsty sword shark. After the bloodthirsty sword shark recovered from its shock, it sneered in its heart. Although the purple lightning bolt was a little strange, it had already found a way to break it. Let's see what else you can do. The bloodthirsty sword shark shot out a few more water arrows at Yun Chujio. At that moment, the bloodthirsty sword shark was on top while Yun Chujio was below it. Yun Chujio would be hit by the water arrows no matter how much she sank, so she could only dodge to the side. However, her swimming speed was not as fast as the water arrows, and there were more than 10 water arrows shot at Yun Chujio. Fortunately, Yun Chujio had a defensive spirit tool on her. A few pieces broke, saving Yun Chujio's little life. Although Yun Chujio used the small purple lightning to restrain a part of the bloodthirsty sword shark's energy, the difference in spiritual power was too big. Moreover, they were under the sea, so Yun Chujio's movements were not that flexible. Very soon, Yun Chujio's defensive spiritual tool was almost depleted. Yun Chujio thought to herself that this could not go on. The number of defensive spiritual tools on her was limited. Sooner or later, she would not be able to hold on. Although there were many defensive spiritual tools from the ancient sword tomb in her storage ring, it was too late for them to recognize her as their master. Moreover, her spiritual sense could no longer hold more spiritual tools. What should she do? At that moment, Yun Chujio saw a squid fleeing in all directions at the bottom of the sea. A thought flashed through her mind, and she took out a large bottle of ink and poured it out. Immediately, the sea water turned pitch black. Chapter 806, Little Girl, you made me suffer so much. The bloodthirsty sword shark did not expect Yun Chujio to use such a wicked method. Yun Chujio's silhouette could not be seen in the dark water. Yun Chujio was not idle at this time. She waved several purple lightning bolts to restrain the bloodthirsty sword shark while desperately searching for something that could be stained in her storage ring. She only had this one bottle of ink. This was because Di Biming often asked her to write a self-reflection letter and a guarantee letter. Usually, she would use a charcoal pen. If she had known this would happen, she would definitely have prepared a few vats of ink. Yun Chujio was extremely anxious. Fortunately, Furry took out a few bottles and jars from the Great Void Mystic Realm. Master, these are the ones that I prepared to dye, glue, and knit sweaters. You can use them first. I'll continue to produce black liquid for you now. Yun Chujio was overjoyed. She quickly sprinkled a few more bottles of dye before the black ink dissipated. The seawater instantly turned into a sea of colorful colors. The bloodthirsty sword shark was furious. Humans were cunning and always liked to play sinister tricks. It was really detestable. It could only spray the water arrows randomly. It did not dare to get too close to the dying areas, afraid that Yun Chujio's little lightning would sneak up on it. Yun Chujio relied on Fui's dye to delay for another hour. However, Fui's movements were not that fast, so it was impossible to produce so much dye. Yun Chujio was once again exposed to the bloodthirsty sword shark's sight. The bloodthirsty sword shark smugly shot hundreds of water arrows at Yun Chujio. You little weakling, let's see what else you can do this time. Yun Chujio had no other choice but to use offense as a defense. She summoned 5 immortal swords and commanded them to attack the bloodthirsty sword shark. Although the 3 immortal swords were reluctant, they could not resist. They could only brace themselves and thrust at the bloodthirsty sword shark. Seeing that Yun Chujio was commanding 5 flying swords at the same time, the bloodthirsty sword shark could not help but be a little surprised. It knew that the 5 swords weren't low grade, so it did not dare to just ignore them. While dodging, it shot out water arrows, hoping to block them. Attacking sea creatures was different from attacking barriers. Yun Chujio was already at the limit of her soul's consciousness when commanding 5 flying swords at the same time. Not only did these 5 flying swords have to attack the bloodthirsty sword shark, but they also had to dodge the water arrows shot out by the bloodthirsty sword shark, thus, it was very taxing on her soul's consciousness. Yun Chujio relied on the 5 immortal swords to fight with the bloodthirsty sword shark for another 15 minutes. Gradually, her soul's consciousness could not resist it, so she had no choice but to take back the 5 immortal swords. At that time, Furry took out another bottle of dye. Yun Chujio hurriedly sprinkled it in the water, and only then was she able to catch her breath for a moment. Yun Chujio's brain was operating at a rapid speed. It was likely that the outcome between Big Bastard and the other bloodthirsty sword shark would not be decided within a short period of time. Right now, whether it was spiritual power or spiritual sense, she was close to being overdrawn. If she did not think of another way, she was afraid that she would be finished. Before Yun Chujio could think of any other way, the bloodthirsty sword shark had actually quietly rushed to the nearby area. With a fierce breath, Yun Chujio's body could not help but be sucked into the bloodthirsty sword shark's mouth. The turtle and the other bloodthirsty sword shark were also fighting nearby. When it suddenly saw that Yun Chujio was swallowed by the bloodthirsty sword shark, it was so scared that its heart trembled. It was finished. The little girl was eaten. Fuck. How could this be? Was this little girl not very awesome? How could she be swallowed? Even if she died, it would still be finished. It was not a match for these two bloodthirsty sword sharks. Little girl, you tricked me so hard. If I knew that you were so useless, I would have thought of a way to escape. Why would I fight head-on with them? Chapter 807. A ship arrives. Just as the giant tsunami turtle was feeling vexed, it saw the bloodthirsty sword shark rolling violently, as if it was in extreme pain. The giant tsunami turtle was dumbfounded. Damn! Could it be that the little girl's meat was poisonous, and the bloodthirsty sword shark's stomach is upset after eating it? The bloodthirsty sword shark opened its mouth wide, as if it wanted to spit something out, but it had no effect. Instead, fresh blood flowed out, dyeing the seawater red. The giant tsunami turtle was delighted. Damn! Could it be that little girl's doing? Did she run into the bloodthirsty sword shark's stomach and terrorize it? At that moment, Yun Chujio was holding a large kitchen knife and hacking at the bloodthirsty sword shark's mouth. Just now, at the moment when she was sucked into the shark's mouth, Yun Chujio used sticky threads to fix herself on the bloodthirsty sword shark's upper jaw. She also made the rolling pin grow longer to keep the bloodthirsty sword shark's mouth open, as she did not want to suffocate to death. Yun Chujio realized that she was moving too slow with the kitchen knife, so she ordered the 5 immortal swords to stab at the shark's upper jaw. It was much easier than commanding it to fight the enemy. "I'll stab you. I'll stab you. Stab. Stab. You still want to eat me? I'll kill you." Yun Chujio commanded the 5 immortal swords to stab at the shark's upper jaw, and she shot out several purple lightning bolts. Those purple lightning bolts rushed toward the shark's abdomen. The bloodthirsty sword shark was really unlucky. Being stabbed in the upper jaw was only a physical pain, but those small lightning bolts had taken its life. Those small lightning bolts struck toward the bloodthirsty sword shark's internal organs. No matter how strong the bloodthirsty sword shark was, it could not stand being struck by the lightning bolts, and it kept rolling violently. The other bloodthirsty sword shark wanted to go over to help when it saw this, but the turtle blocked it with a roar. It seemed that the little girl had succeeded. It could not let her look down on it. It had to kill this bloodthirsty sword shark. An hour later, the bloodthirsty sword shark that had swallowed Yun Chujio was dead. Yun Chujio then slowly swam out of the mouth of the bloodthirsty sword shark. She put the body of the bloodthirsty sword shark into her storage ring and then helped the giant tsunami turtle to deal with the other bloodthirsty sword shark. The bloodthirsty sword shark was no match for the giant tsunami turtle. When it saw that its companion was dead, it became even more flustered. In less than 15 minutes, it was bitten to death by the giant tsunami turtle. The giant tsunami turtle swallowed the inner core of the bloodthirsty sword shark and then cried a few times at Yun Chujio in a fawning manner. Yun Chujio, the foodie, immediately understood what the giant tsunami turtle meant. "Master Godly Turtle, do you want me to help you collect the corpse of the bloodthirsty sword shark and take it out when you want to eat it?" The giant tsunami turtle nodded vigorously. Damn, this little girl was really smart. That was exactly what it meant. Seeing the giant tsunami turtle nod, Yun Chujio put the body of the bloodthirsty sword shark into her storage ring. Then, she and the turtle emerged from the water. After such a fierce battle, the man and the turtle had more trust in each other, so the rest of the journey was particularly smooth. Yun Chujio sat on the back of the turtle and saw a big ship from afar. She was pleasantly surprised. After such a long time, she finally saw a human. "Master Godly Turtle, let's part ways here. Keep these blood coagulation pills. I'll come and play with you again when I have the chance." Yun Chujio said as she took out several bottles of blood coagulation pills and threw them at the giant tsunami turtle. Although the giant tsunami turtle was a little reluctant to part with them, when it thought about how it could continue to live as an overlord from now on, it immediately pushed the reluctance to the back of its mind, dove into the sea and left. Chapter 808, I Know How to Cook, Damn It. It is indeed a heartless bastard. It left just like that. Yun Chujio, who had fallen into the sea, muttered as she swam toward the direction of the big ship. Yun Chujio estimated that the distance was close enough, only then did she emerge from the water. She waved her arms and shouted, "Help! Help!" The big ship soon arrived in front of Yun Chujio. A rope was thrown down from the ship. Yun Chujio grabbed the rope and was dragged onto the big ship. "Thank you. Thank you. I will never forget the kindness of saving my life." After Yun Chujio was dragged onto the ship, she bowed and thanked everyone. "Ha! Kid, you don't have to be so polite. After all, there are conditions for us to save you," a sinister voice said. Yun Chujio was busy thanking them just now and did not carefully examine the people on the ship. When she heard someone say this, she could not help but raise her head and see dozens of people standing in front of her. The person who was talking to her was a middle-aged man in a black attire. The lower left corner of the suit was embroidered with a striking white fish bone. Yun Chujio had a bad premonition. She heard that in the endless sea, other than the dangerous sea creatures, there were also some pirates who specialized in robbing cultivators who collected waterproof beads. Could it be that she had encountered pirates? Fuck. If that was really the case, she would be in trouble. Even if she could escape, how could she reach the shore now that big bastard was gone? Yun Chujio said in a cowardly manner, "Savior, what do you mean by that? I don't quite understand." The middle-aged man laughed wildly, "You don't understand? You really are a little bastard. We're from the Fishbone Gang, and we specialize in killing people and stealing treasures. We saved you for the storage bag on your body. Your corpse can also be used as bait to fish for some sea creatures. Isn't that killing two birds with one stone? Ha ha ha." Yun Chujio pretended to be afraid and started trembling. However, her eyes swept across everyone's strength. Those who were able to become pirates in the endless sea were not weak. Most of these people were above the 5th level of the spirit cultivator realm. There were also 5 people at the level of the Spirit Emperor. Yun Chujio estimated that if they were on land, she and Little Black could fight with them together. However, they were on the ship now, and it was their territory. It was better to be safe. Should she jump into the sea? If she jumped into the sea, they would definitely not be able to catch her again. However, without the big bastard, it would be difficult for her to reach the shore. She might as well take the ship and leave a few people alive so that they could send her to the shore. Yes, that was the plan. Leader. To be honest, the reason why I fell into the sea was because I was robbed. Now, I have nothing on me. However, I am also a 5th level spirit cultivator. If you don't mind, take me as your subordinate. I don't have any other skills, but my cooking skills are still very good. Yun Chujio said while trembling. The middle-aged man sized up Yun Chujio and thought to himself that this little bastard was so scared that he was trembling, so he was probably not lying. "All right. I'll give you a chance. Prepare lunch for me immediately. If I'm satisfied with the food, I'll keep you. If not, I'll kill you immediately to be bait." Yun Chujio nodded excitedly. "I'll definitely cook well. I'll definitely make sure you're satisfied with your meal. Bring him to the kitchen. Keep an eye on him. If he tries to trick you, just kill him." "Yes." Yun Chujio was brought to the kitchen by 2 pirates. The kitchen was a mess. Apparently, these pirates only needed to fill their stomachs and did not bother cooking at all. Yun Chujio had a slight chance of winning. Although her culinary skills were average, it was more than enough to deal with these pirates. As long as she put in some effort, she did not have to worry about not being able to stay. You're tuning in to the Han Li's Wuxia Adventures YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.